definitely the foundation and the site of this beginning of my Episcopal identity. And without ascension, I can't even tell you. But I'm supposed to, so I'll just keep talking. Well, a lot of you have known me for a long time. The rest of you, don't worry, the nightmares won't last long. The voice echoes for a while, but you'll get over it. It'll be okay. I grew up primarily Baptist in the suburbs of Chicago. And Baptist, I think, is what my family claimed most often. We really attended the churches that had the best choirs and would let my father preach or let my mother sing. And I had a fraught and strange navigational sort of relationship with the church, because I'd end up at Sunday morning with people who were oh so holy, but I was there seeing what was happening on Saturday night. And it was, the joke of how you tell the difference between an Episcopalian and a Baptist?
No.
Episcopalians say hi to each other at the liquor store. Baptist, I didn't see you and you didn't see me. And don't tell anybody. That is a stereotypical, overarching, unfair thing to say. But unfortunately, my roots were in that sort of stereotypical way of worshiping. However, even though some of those darkest places that we're all working and living and going step by step forward to shake off, having experienced those, I never, during all those formation years and having my children, never felt abandoned by God. JC and I were buddies. That's who my imaginary friend, when somebody had an imaginary friend to talk to, I talked to Jesus. And when we disagreed, let's go talk to your dad. Like I said, it was a fraught and strained on again, off again relationship with the church and an organized religion. And in 1991, 31 years old, I walked through those doors. And Perry Lyons said, I missed you. I said, I've never been here before. And he said, that's why I missed you. Here, take two, they're small. He was handing out bulletins. And I mean, he shocked me. I almost walked into one of the trees. There really were trees growing up in the middle of I almost walked into one of the trees, almost put my foot in the hole, and came in, and Father Michael Harmuth was the rector at the time. And this was a fifth Sunday. And it was Father Michael's tradition that every fifth Sunday, the sermon was targeted toward children. They didn't go off to Children's Chapel. They all climbed up on are we still doing that? Oh, sorry. Was I not supposed to bring that up? They climbed up. All right. Uh-oh. You heard me. I got permission. They climb up onto the steps onto the altar. And Father Michael, it was ordinary time. So the vestments were green, and he had on the long green stole that had all the Peanuts characters embroidered on. Anybody remember that? And I was along that back wall, and the sun hit that stained glass. Perry had made sure that someone, and I beg that person's forgiveness, I don't remember who it was there to teach me all the dance moves, the choreography. Okay, this is when we're up and we're down and we're up and we're good. It's good. You're doing well. You're doing fine. That's the first time I encountered rubrics. Rubrics are your friend. That's what I got at the Iona School for Ministry. And the sun came through there. I had someone supporting me. I don't know how many times you walked into a church, stayed the whole service, left, and felt like you had just ghosted your way through somewhere and hadn't been seen and hadn't been felt or experienced and didn't feel that you had experienced the community of God. That does not happen at Ascension. So I was home and I kept coming. And then after having been very happily divorced for 10 years, you know how they say love is blind? Andrea Bocelli, Stevie Wonder, Jose Feliciano, they're blind, but they get along just fine. That kind of love can be deaf, dumb, blind, and crazy. And I fell in love with an Episcopalian. It didn't work. But I had already steeped myself in Ascension. And that the end of that relationship gave me another of those periods of, I don't know. Maybe I'm just doing it all wrong. Maybe I'm just not listening correctly. Maybe I don't hear. Maybe my heart's not aimed in the right direction. So I was away from Ascension for a couple of years. And then God's got jokes and God is good, and I got single. And I came back in, and there was now a heavily pregnant, short woman with dark hair on the altar preaching. And that's the first time I experienced Kay Ryan. This was before Eleanor had made her arrival. And that's when I encountered Rodney Jones. Now, I probably had before, but we hadn't actually engaged. And being the shy and retiring flower that you all know that I am, there was no one at where the greeters table used to be, the one that would roll around all the time and you didn't want it to hit anybody, but there was no one there. And someone was asking where the restrooms were, and Rodney was out there with his Verge. And, you know, if you've ever thought, I want to be the guy with the stick, you're probably an Episcopalian, but so I started helping. Hi. No, you can, it's right around there. And if you want to fill out a card here, please don't feel pressured. No, we'll get your bulletin. I'm a little guilty of helping sometimes. And Rodney said, oh, we need to make you an MC. I always thought EMCEE, the person with the mic, was doing all the talking. I was, minister of ceremonies. And he said it to Kay, who said, wait, Rodney, there's some things that have to happen first. I felt empowered to serve before I even knew what the parts in the play were. And so Kay said, let's start. It's baby steps before we run, skip, and hop. And Fred Geist trained me as a lay Eucharistic minister and a lector. And I began those ministries. And then I eventually became an MC. And I was teaching with Todd Rutenbar, senior high Sunday school, and accompanying Katie Dickinson, or then known as Mama Putnam, on mission trips. And the phone kept ringing. There was more I needed to do. I could express this to Kay. And she said, oh, here's something I want to show you. And she introduced me to Stephen Ministry. Judy Raspberry and Sue Ross were leading the training for Stephen ministers within Ascension at the time. And I ended up going into leaders training after Judy got on the big bus and went home.
That was
I
tough.
went to the Stephen leaders training. And during the course of the Stephen leaders training, somehow I became the spokesperson for our table. I don't know how that happens. And I was at the mic. It was a role play situation where the question was, can you think of a time that a man, and men, you guys have it rough because you're not allowed to pout. You can't have the poo-poo face. Everything's supposed to be fine. How can give us an example of a man being able to benefit from a Stephen ministry relationship? So of course I go up in character. Yo, I'm Vinny. I work at the Sears in Jersey. I've been selling these appliances for a long, long time. The big box stores, they come in, they don't need the Sears anymore. You can get your white Westinghouse and everything else without the guy in the suit with the vest and the tie and the pin from Sears. And the Sears took out the appliances, and I got to go home to my family with a pink slip. Well, that opened, it added to the conversation. It opened, and then some other folks shared. And at the end of that session, Amity Hauk, Dr. Kenneth Hauk's daughter, he's the founder of Stephen Ministries organization, came to me and she said, we want to talk to you about being a presenter, a workshop presenter. So I trained and became a Stephen Ministry workshop presenter, flying in on Friday, meeting with the host congregation, get up on Saturday, meet and greet and talk for 4 hours, answer questions, get on the first thing smoking, and then be back in church Sunday. And it was wonderful. And the phone kept ringing. You ever see Pretty Woman? When Richard Gere tells her, stop answering the phone, she said, well, quit calling. The phone kept ringing. There's something I'm supposed to be giving and doing that's not happening. And I talked to Kay about it. And Kay sent me to meet with the then Bishop Diocesan for Dallas about a path to ordination. This was 20 years ago, 20 and a couple. I had a wonderful, encouraging conversation, and wherein it was explained to me the exact logistical reasons why it was an impossibility for me to seek ordination in the Episcopal Church. I was not evocative in how I presented that. Let the record show who started it. But I was given facts about my lack of formal secondary education. I was given facts about the fact that I had 2 ex-husbands, neither of them deceased. I'm telling you. And what canons? I didn't know from canons. I thought these are the laws of the Episcopal Church. It's not possible. It's not a physical possibility. But I was encouraged to seek certification as a lay preacher and began at the Stanton Center. And Come on, the bishop gave me an A on a paper. And he opened his first, he said he doesn't give it. Gave me an A on a paper. But it ached. There was I wouldn't say it was a gangrenous spread so much as it was a developing hole that I couldn't fill up. And very conveniently, there were some family issues and parental discord with my parentage. During the time that Father George Locke, bless his heart, who was an Old Testament professor, was teaching about the patriarchs and how infallible. And I think that's what I heard, because we know Father George didn't say that. You know, come on. But it gave me the impetus to remove myself from that. I felt conflicted. And so I kept doing everything that I could do at Ascension and with Stephen Ministry and here, there, and everywhere that I could. Preaching and pastoral care are the hearts of my ministry. And I went into discernment after letting Father Paul know the phone was still ringing. So I was going to start at Iona. I was starting at Iona School to seek lay preaching. I was going on the lay theological path that they have. And that's how I started, while having a discernment team of people who'd watched me grow. Now, you have to remember, it's been a long and winding road. On January 20th of last year, I was ordained an Episcopal priest. On January 29th of last year, of 2024, I turned 64 years old. God's got jokes. I'm 65 when I received this blessed invitation to talk about this with all of you. I thought, well, how do I explain, excuse, rationalize the fact that here I am 65 years old, a baby priest? And then I thought, wait a minute. Luke chapter 3 says that Jesus began his ministry somewhere around his 30th year. So, okay, he got called 30 years ago before he actually started. And we've walked through the scriptures and the gospel with his frustration of wanting to teach in the temple as a young man and not being believed. You're Joe's kid from down the street. You can't have it's not you. So many ways and places that it's a long and winding road. And I don't care what Paul McCartney tells you, it's not all about Jane Asher. Look it up, Google it later. It's a Beatles thing. Young people look at me and go, the whole Scooby-Doo crew, I feel your support. Thank you. I did my first year at the 3-year program at Iona School for Ministry. And it is the current Dallas Bishop Diocesan that first mentioned Iona to me. And, going away to 3-year seminary isn't a physical possibility for everyone. But if you've met some of our wonderful curates and newly ordained that have just come out of 3-year residential seminary and are 20-something. Life experience is supported and respected and has a place in the Episcopal Church. Solid, formal education in ministry, in residential seminary, and all the divinity degrees that this one probably has hanging on the wall are wonderful. But that life experience that hasn't been lived yet is not dismissible there, just like those formal years of what did Karl Barth say about this part of the scripture is not dismissed. The lack of that is not dismissed with those who have experiential and relational and loving of God's people experience. So it's not ridiculous. If your phone is ringing, I give you the number to Iona. I was there a year, and I went to Kay, who by this time was a bishop suffragan in the Diocese of Texas, and told her, Kay, you know, when we talked about that phone ringing 20-some years ago, I'm wondering if I should change tracks. I was on the lay track, and I'm wondering, is it right? Should I seek ordination? And I told my discernment team that I understood that, and I had a great excuse. Some of the people I've been blessed to minister to as a layperson have been so hurt by formal religion that the last thing they want to see coming is a collar. This was my excuse for not seeking ordination. And I can feel Tom Dwyer giving me that look. I had been convinced. And when I sat down, when Father Paul sent me to sit down with Bishop Wayne Smith, and I told him, well, I know I can't. It's not allowable, it's not permissible. I can't because of certain facts in my history and in my life become a priest. He said, you know who decides whether or not you seek ordination? Your bishop. Who are you looking at? Right, Reverend? He said, the Holy Spirit comes to mess with your life and has been messing with your life a long time. Feather, rock, or train? Sir?
What?
God's been trying to get your attention. Does he get it with a feather? Does he have to throw a rock? You got to get hit by a train. When I told Kay, I think I want to seek ordination. Well, Laura, I've been trying to make you a priest for 20 years. Right there in the Telepson dining room at Camp Allen, just loud in front of God and everybody, just scolded me right into it. Ascension and not doing this in a silo. If you're hearing, mine's not a still small voice. Mine's a voice like mine. But even if yours is a still small voice and you're hearing it, share that with your small group, with your Stephen minister, with your clergy, with someone. And don't have yourself convinced that it's not a possibility. God's got jokes. I am a priest in the Episcopal Church, and I am so blessed. I am so very, very blessed, and I thank you, Ascension.
We're blessed.
Unfortunately, unlike at the end of a Lifetime movie, silly phone is still ringing. The phone is still ringing, but that's okay. I'll keep picking it up as long as I can, because I am loved and supported. Okay, I think I'm supposed to ask about a Q&A. Is that what I'm supposed to do now?
Yeah, run it.
Okay.
You don't need my help.
Somebody throw a Q and I'll throw back an A. Yes, sir.
Use the phrase, phone it rang a lot. I know it's
Mhm.
big, but expound on that. How did it manifest itself? What transpired?
There was a longing. There was I thought this longing is going to be filled when I add this ministry, when I reach these people, when I have an opportunity to tell that person, I know it hurts like all get out right now, but God's love is on the other side of this. And I'll walk with you or beside you or just cuss at it for you. And I'd add those things, and I still had more need to serve. And I realized that a part of that, and until I actually started on the formal path to ordination, I didn't realize how much the hole in my ministry of performing the sacraments was part of that insulation that was missing, that was allowing or wouldn't quell the ringer on the phone. And when you are able to invite people to God's table and know that I'm not doing anything, but being able to serve as maybe a maitre d', not one that turns you away because you're not wearing the right jacket, or pull a tie out of the hostess stand because you can't come in without it, but because you are loved and you are welcome, as I have been loved and welcomed, most especially within this family. That's a lot of it still rings. It just doesn't, it's not a baby crying unattended anymore. Now, next question. Anyone? Bueller? That's another old movie. Look up Matthew Broderick. Yes, ma'am.
The whole film?
That's twofold. Not completely. The hole is not, I was asked if the hole was filled. Not completely. I don't ever want it to be. When it's done, I want somebody to be saying, good and faithful servant, you can rest now. Or at least Peter going, no, somebody else come check this list because I don't think I don't know if she's in the right place. So it's not, I described it earlier as a widening, deepening hole or a gangrenous growth, something that just didn't feel right. It wasn't, there is such a blessing and rightness, and I'm just having a ball. I absolutely am. And I have to tell you, people have asked me, I've done one marriage. I've done 2 baptisms. The most precious and sacred sacrament or rite that I have been blessed to be a part of has been ministration at time of death and the burial service. To be allowed into that sacred space, to be able to meet people where they are, while they're so busy taking care of everybody else, to know that there's someone to remind them. I get to help remind them to take care of you. God's got all the rest of it. This is vulnerable. I wasn't supposed to do a sermon. I hope it didn't sound like it was a sermon. It wasn't a sermon. But then, of course, my sermons don't sound like sermons. So, who can tell? Any other questions? Yes, so I already said 65. Mother of 3 daughters, and raised my nephew from 4 years old. My grandchildren, does anybody remember Aiden, little curly haired Aiden, who was an acolyte here? April 3rd, that young man will be 20 years old. I have 4 grandchildren. He's the oldest. And, once he told me when he was about 4, I guess, Mama, you need to settle down. If I settle down, I'll get old. You'll never be old because I won't settle down. You see how that works? Somebody hit me with another one.
Were you ever asked to do something and you realized you said yes and you shouldn't have, or?
Was I ever asked to do something and said yes and I shouldn't have?
Like a ministry, like that's not the.
Oh, a ministry. You don't mean that. Will you marry me? And I would like to say yes. I would like to answer that question with a yes, but actually, as I think about it, I was asked to do something, got in it, and realized this is not what I understood it to be. And it is not fulfilling our mission of communion and our goal to be welcoming as children of God to all other children of God. But then I was glad I was there because I'll tell it. Well, not tell it because there's certain discretion that happens, but there was. I didn't want to be there. I didn't like the way it was working. I didn't like what it was, but I was glad I was there because then I could help to enlighten someone who could enact change or improvement. So yeah, did I step in some? If I hadn't stepped in it, I wouldn't have known it was there and we needed a shovel. So
you described a lot of different ministries that you were engaged in over your period at Ascension Church. Just kind of thrust into the role of preacher to MC to reader to down and out. What can you say a little bit more of like discerning that path of the things that contributed for you to move to the next thing?
Those dabbling in all those ponds and angling for all those different kind of fish that are in those particular ponds, because although it's one big ministry with the same goal, the usher's role and the greeter's role and the lay Eucharistic minister's role and the reader or lector's role, they're all different. But I found that the common thread for me was how it connected me to the people that I cared for. I've never been on the altar guild.
It's not too late. What do you do on Saturday morning?
I have a healthy fear of the altar guild. Okay.
They train you that before they ordain you, don't they?
Oh yes. Oh yes. You get red wine on the fair linen and see what happens. But the altar guild ministry also would speak to that because of everything they do that you don't see, that enhances, enables, makes radically hospitable, we're going to use this, your experience of not only communion and baptism, but coming into the space and feeling it as sacred. All of the things I found that the pulling thread for me was how it connected me to people. The pastoral care that was embedded in reading in a way that maybe engaged someone with it that wasn't comfortable reading along. Tilting the chalice in a way that helped someone who was nervous or unsure. Greeting with real greeting. I'm glad you're here. I was infected that day. That tall, stately man with the gorgeous white hair said, "I missed you." I felt like I mattered. In all of it, we matter. Regardless of what we've done, I can't see coordination. I was a bad boy in the 70s in my black leather jacket. I don't know, increase like that. But I wasn't looking at this side of the room. But God has use and projects and work for all of us. That puts us at 7:10.
Sing us your favorite Lenten hymn.
Oh, good grief.
I know I just tempted you too.
Yeah, you did, and I was going to burst out, but that's hard. Favorite Lenten.
I know. You got one little stumper in there.
I wrote the newsletter article today and submitted it for the St. Stephen's, where I'm associate vicar in Hearst. Are the newsletter article, and it's so really, seriously, why don't we use the A or H word during this season? You don't cheer when your superhero is getting beat down. There will be celebratory. Oh my goodness, now I got all these songs running through my head. You are mean. Oh, let me just stay and watch with me.
All right.
For an hour.
We love you, Laura.
Thank you. Try to make sense the next time you let me.
I'd like to present you this. Someone left in the office for you.
Yes.
Show them our appreciation.
I know exactly what it is. Our own Sterling Moore wrote a book about a professor at SMU. And he interviewed Steve Walensky as part of putting this book together. And in 4 places, he cites Steve Walensky. Steve Walensky, a longtime member at St. John's, where I work full-time as parish administrator, because I'm such a slacker, has recently gone home to be with the Lord. And Sterling called me last week and said, I lost track of him. I always wanted to give him a copy of the book. I will be giving this to his widow, Mary Ellen, on behalf of Sterling. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, one more thanks for Laura.
Please do come back next week. Randy will be severely disappointed if he doesn't see at least as many people as we're here for. They have a slight competition complex going on, having traveled to Iona and studied together there, and I'm sure she'll give him a full accounting. She may be rounding up. So, we're good friends. Come back next week, enjoy a meal, and another great presentation. Randy Nelson's next Wednesday. We hope that you'll join us. Thank you for coming.
Right now. Down left. All right.
Yes.
So you're doing well, let's rock it along. 35.